Hello and welcome to this painting recap. I can't believe this has actually happened. I've done 2 videos on my painting in 2 months. Truly the end times are here. Last month's video was a bumper episode, however, because it featured several months of sort of built up stuff, whereas this I've only had a month to make. So whilst I have done some painting, it's definitely going to look like I'm slacking, which isn't really true. I've actually done quite a bit of painting this month. Though for the first time in one of these videos, it's not just my painting that you'll be seeing. A guest star will be making an appearance. But before we get to that excitement, let me show you what I've been working on. And this month, that's been my Orc Big Guns, a pair of them. I assembled these over the Christmas break, and I've got to say they're probably the most fun kits I've ever assembled from Games Workshop. I don't know why, but there's something about them that is just anarchic and great and kind of reminds me of Airfix kits. I assembled and painted these in 2 parts per gun, the kind of gun itself and then the carriage, I guess. And these were initially airbrushed black and then lead belcher, given a null and oil wash, and then dry brushed with chainmail or roomfang steel, depending how old you are, which took care of a surprisingly large surface area, much of which is not very visible, but also very inaccessible to paintbrush. And then each gun given some kind of unique personality. So the red gun is obviously covered in the Hawaiian pattern that you've seen on some of the shirts in the army. The green one was a different pattern, which was trying to be leaves. I don't think it's worked terribly well, but you know, the overall effect's pretty good. But a gun is not a gun without a crew, and in this particular case, the crew has only been partly painted. I tried something different with these Grots, which are mostly from the Met Gun kit, but also a couple from the Gretchen kit. I airbrushed them with a black undercoat and then a zenithal highlight of white ink, and then hit them with a mixture of Orc Flesh and Dark Oath Flesh contrast paints from below, and then from above with a mixture of Orc Flesh and yellow ink. And it's given them really quite a nice gradient, more in some cases than in others. On some of the models, I just think it hasn't really given them enough contrast and they look a bit crap. The ones I've painted so far I'm pretty happy with, though I am particularly happy with the sunbathing grot on the base of the red gun. He's living his best life. As of the time of recording, the other grots aren't quite finished, so I'm hoping to get these guys done in the next couple of days, and then I can say that these 2 heavy support units are actually finished. But I promised you a guest star, and that star is Pixel Girl, and the model in question is this referee from Blood Bowl. Basically, this month I released a book, and Pixel Girl wanted to get me a present to congratulate me, which was, well, you'll see it later. But alongside that present, she was determined to assemble and paint a model herself. And for that, she chose this referee, which I think looks really good. Considering that I gave her some basic instructions and I didn't give her my nice expensive brushes, I think she's done an astonishingly good job. The referee's got a striped uniform, she's free-handed, not only the text on the scroll, but also the cover of my book on the referee card. I think she's done amazingly well for her first model, and she even based it in green. So that's all I worked on this month. I say all because, well, the big guns are quite big and the kits take longer to paint than you'd think. But anyway, looking forwards, there's some really exciting stuff on the horizon. The present that Pixel Girl got me was this, the Guacamole Crater Gators, a Lizard Man Blood Bowl team. I've always had a soft spot for the Lizard Men in Warhammer Fantasy since my very first introduction to the setting, and I've always been very curious about playing Blood Bowl. I like watching the NFL and American football, and so combining that with Warhammer, instant win. Obviously I'm going to like it. And these models just look fantastic. I am itching to assemble and paint them, particularly my favourite model possibly in the entire world, the chameleon skink holding onto the bull with his tongue. I'm really keen to see how these guys are going to look with a similar airbrushing technique that I used on the Grots and the 2 different contrast paints. Hopefully, at least the skinks are going to be really quite quick to paint up. Alongside that, however, is the other model that came in the pack that Pixel Girl got her referee in, this dwarf referee, which is such a characterful model, and it's already been primed somewhat by her, so I basically have just got to start whacking some paint down on it. And then last but not least, I found a model for my war boss. So to be clear, this is 3D printed by a company called Rum and Resin on Etsy, which I'll leave linked in the description because they had a fantastic customer service. They were able to take this ogre model and then scale it down to be an appropriate size for Warhammer. I'd taken off his weapon, which was basically just a club, and replaced it with the skeleton of a hook, which I'll be covering with milliparts to make it look a bit like a certain certain famous Disney characters' hook-like maritime weapon. And this war boss is going to be used in one of two ways. Either as the rider of a Deathkiller Wartrike, which will be an outrigger canoe on a large base, or as a foot-slogging war boss. So he'll have two separate bases, one of which will be extremely decorative with a boat and everything, and the other one will be a relatively simple sand one. So I'll be pinning him through his feet so that I can add him to either of those bases, and such that if I were to play in Warhammer World, I can replace him with an actual Games Workshop war boss body. To briefly part the curtain on how I do my job, this month, as in February, I just took on a full-time editor, so I'm hoping that I won't need to be working quite so late into the evenings and on the weekends, which should mean I'm going to get more painting done. And with quite a few projects that are just begging to be finished, or will hopefully be quite quick to complete, hopefully next month there's going to be quite a lot of models to show you. That's it for this video though. Please do pop it a like if you enjoyed. Here's some recommended viewing next, and hopefully I'll see you in a month's time.